Have you ever felt like God was asking you to do something that didn't make any sense and honestly, a little embarrassing? Well, today we're going to talk about how your obedience to God can break you through the impossible.
You're listening to Identity Shift with Zara-Zivan, the space where we renew our minds to live in our unique design.
Welcome back to the Identity Shift podcast. I'm Zara-Zivan, and I am going to be going more into the crossover series, part two, today. And like I said before, we're going to be talking about how your obedience to God can break you through the impossible. And I have a funny story to share with you because just a few years ago, before things blew up with my second book that I had published, I self-published. The crazy part about how that even blew up was a simple step of obedience that didn't make any sense. And it all started off by me going to the malls in Atlanta and passing out paper bookmarks from my book. Okay. The feeling of having to do that, sometimes we're in a position in our lives where we know that we need God to break through in some way, shape, or form. And for me, in that case, I was in a just a really tough place in my life where I knew that God wanted to use me through this book. So I was like, what can I possibly do? And I felt it in my spirit to go and hand out those bookmarks at the mall. And I was like, okay. As scared as I was, I got in my little Kia, drove to the mall. I think I started at Phipps Plaza. I think I started there. But I went to like three different malls on three different occasions, and I would pass out these paper bookmarks and just encourage people. Hey, how are you? I just wanted to hand you this bookmark, and I just felt like, maybe you could use a word of encouragement. And the bookmarks had scriptures on it, like I am statements, affirmations, and it had like scriptures for those affirmations. And as interesting as that is, just being nice, because it's free, you don't got to pay for nothing. I would then tell them, well, because they would ask me, like, oh, that's nice of you. What is this for? I would tell them about my book, I Am Chosen, and I would show them the book. Did I make any sales from that? No, I did not. But I believe the third mall that I went to, as I was coming out of Charlotte Russe, I saw a guy at a kiosk. And I don't know if he approached me or if I approached him. But either way, we came into contact, and somehow, some way, we stirred up a conversation. I told him I wasn't working a corporate job at the time, and he asked me to come work with him at the kiosk. He sells the t-shirts and the books and things, so I didn't know that at the time. I just got to know the business. I just took step number one and handed out the bookmark, started talking to people, and lo and behold, I come across an opportunity to work at a kiosk. And I didn't understand how big this was at the time. I didn't understand how important it was for me to take this opportunity. And when I ended up working at the kiosk, he taught me how to sell. He taught me how to sell t-shirts to random people at the mall. And I kid you not, it is the most fun, exhilarating, and challenging experience because I could not sell anything. Starting off because you literally have to grab people out of their comfort zone. You have to grab people out of their regular day. They didn't come to the mall to talk and stop at someone at a kiosk, but we had to disrupt them to get them to see the importance of the product that we had. And long story short, I took the crazy risk of opening up a kiosk next to them. And they basically, I had to, contribute my funds, but I also sold their shirts as well as my books. So I had the opportunity of selling my books at the kiosk. And then within 3 months, I kid you not, within 3 months, I made over $13,000 off of book sales. And I would have never came across such an experience like that if I would never have taken step number one, which looked crazy, like go to the mall, pass out bookmarks. But God, I need money. What does these bookmarks have to do with anything? Out of obedience, you can break through what looks impossible. So I leave you with that story because I'm going to share with you three truths that I really want you to stand by today. Because maybe you're in a position like how I was, where I was looking for help or looking for assistance or looking for the next step or just simply wanting to get connected to God. These three truths can apply to your life no matter what stage that you're in. Let's go to it. Before I dive into the three truths, we got to remember our foundation here with the crossover series. I know you're probably like, what does this have to do with the crossover series? Okay, so the crossover series is in alignment with the book of Joshua. And on this particular episode, we're going to be talking about how the book of Joshua, chapters 3 and 4, go hand in hand with obedience. So keep in mind the story I talked about with the bookmarks. That's important because that was my crossover moment. When we break this down, we look at how in the book of Joshua, chapter 3, this is the time where Israel is getting ready to cross over. And it is important for them to be obedient to God, even if it doesn't make sense. And just to sum up the story, it didn't make sense for Israel to cross over a river during harvest season where the banks were overflowing. That was a time that looked dangerous. It looked like it was impossible for Israelites to get from a wilderness season to their promised land. And they had to believe God. They had to be obedient. God's telling Joshua this whole time that you're going to cross over the Jordan. You're going to leave these memorial stones at the lodges. You're going to set up a place of remembrance. Like there's things in our lives that God tells us to do that doesn't make any sense to us, but because we're walking in alignment with Him, He will order our footsteps and He'll make a way for us to get through. For instance, when I was doing the bookmark situation, didn't make sense for me to hand out bookmarks when I needed money. Didn't sell any books, but that obedience step, working at the kiosk, obedience was me leading myself into a breakthrough. The first truth that I want to go over is that obedience feels small until it feels significant. Okay. This whole entire journey where we cross over from a place of wilderness into our promised land, it may feel small for you to reach out and talk to people about the business that you have. It may feel small for you to pray for a friend before you see their breakthrough. It may feel small for you to be abstinent before you get married. It may feel small. It may not make sense, but it's significant with God because He's the one that's telling you what to do before He gets you to step number one. So He's telling you to take these steps. If you're in a place in your life where you're like, God, like this doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to let go of a friendship that I thought that was for me. It doesn't make sense for me to, stop dating when I feel like I'm supposed to be searching for my husband. Like it doesn't make sense sometimes when you are in positions that feel uncomfortable, but sometimes that pruning is necessary before He takes you into your promised land or even just a place of transformation. One of the things that my church is doing right now, it feels small, but it's significant. Pruning process. Okay. We're going through pruning process. We're going through pruning process, meaning we're abiding more in Christ, meaning we're spending time with God, being intentional about building our relationship with Christ, because that means God is doing something new on the inside of us. That is a huge sign. When you are in a place where God is transitioning you before you step into your promised land, He is going to work on your character. He is going to work on your consistency. He is going to work on things that may feel like this is not necessary. Like for me, right now, it doesn't make any sense for me to be in a place where I'm searching for a job again. Like it doesn't make sense. But in obedience and taking action, I gain results. You gain results the more that you take the steps that God is calling you to take. In those small steps, you will be surprised by the significance that is going to come out of your obedience. The second truth that we're going to talk about is how obedience requires repetition. Hear me. I thought about this before I even started recording this episode. God dealt with me how when you're obedient, it's not just that one time that you have to be obedient. You know, that time when maybe you have God told you to cut off a distraction and you needed to cut off that distraction. You know that distraction was not sent from God. So you cut off the distraction, and a week later, the distraction pops back up, texting you again. Are you going to entertain or are you going to let it go like God said, right? Because obedience requires repetition. The repetition is the things that come up you that you may come across in the midst of your steps of obedience. If you're, like I said, the distraction pops back up, you gonna respond or are you gonna ignore? Be obedient and don't respond. Sometimes you have to cut people off if they're not meant to be in your life. Obedience requires a repetition even in your business. When you think about if you're building a business right now, let's say you're building a business, it is required for you to continue to pitch your services, continue to reach out to prospects, because in the midst of your repetition, you're being obedient, you're planting the seeds, you're allowing God to do the work through you, you're gaining strength, gaining experience, gaining momentum. All of these things are building up for a significant moment. And that repetition is eventually going to pay off. When I was at the mall handing out the bookmarks, I went to 3 different malls, talked to so many different people, handed out a bunch of bookmarks for free. Didn't make no sales, didn't make no sense, but the repetition, okay, we're putting energy and motion to the things that we are believing God for. Lo and behold, a significant opportunity came out of that repetition. So I want you to think about what in your life right now is God calling you to do, and will you be obedient and continue through that process? Because as you go through, we're keeping our eyes on what God is revealing in us in the future. What is God going to do through you when you pray every night, when you fast weekly, whatever that looks like for you? Think about the outcome of what God's going to do in the future and focus on what's happening right now. Because when you're in the moment, you get to embrace it, you get to enjoy it, and you're not just doing it just to get what you want out of God. You're doing it to allow yourself to be developed as a human being, as a person, so that you can see the results and the fruit that come out of your obedience. So remember, obedience requires repetition. The third truth that I want to share with you is that obedience creates access that you could not manufacture. This is significant because when we look in the book of Joshua, it is impossible for man to create space in a river with overflow banks at the time to walk along this river on dry land. It is impossible for man to split the seas, to walk across a river on dry land. That is only a God move. In your life right now, I know we're not in biblical days when Joshua's alive. Of course not. But as the analogy is put in position, you have had moments in your life that were significant, like you knew that it was a God move. There have been situations that you have been stuck in that it was only a God move for you to get out of. There are moments where God is going to orchestrate things to work out for you. And it may not make sense in the moment, but I guarantee you there's something on the other side of your obedience. God doesn't call you to obedience without preparing something in the future. He's preparing you for something significant right now. And that is why it feels hard, it feels stressful, it feels tough. It may not make any sense at all. But there's a reason why God has you in a position where you are having to do something that is out of your own strength. And you're going to need the strength of God to get through it because it is only by God's strength that you're going to see significant results. When I think about what it looked like and what it felt like for me to be at the kiosk learning how to sell, I think about that and I'm like, dang, like we spent months. I think I spent like 2 months, 3 months before we opened up a second kiosk and we sold like crazy. I mean, every single day we were winning. David was like, the guy I was working for, he was like, if y'all make the sale today, I'll buy y'all lunch. Me and Jamel were selling the products. I was selling my books and we all ate. Okay. And the preparation had to happen before the success. The preparation was me learning how to get out of my comfort zone, me learning how to talk to people, hold conversation, find out what their needs are, find out what their wants are, and sell a product that makes sense to them. Like these are t-shirts with a statement on it. And oftentimes, people may not want a t-shirt with a statement on it, but sometimes you have to leverage what is available to get people to buy, and people would buy, they would support. And that blessing, like it was a blessing because at the time the whole Black Lives Matter was going on as well. So that was like a double blessing as well. So it was just the perfect timing. You just never know when things are going to happen. You never know when doors are going to open. It may look impossible. It may not make sense, but I want you to know and be encouraged that in the midst of your obedience, there is God. God is preparing you for something greater on the other side. And if you stick through, you're going to see the results that you've been praying for. So I hope this message blessed you today. This is a beautiful time. Embrace this season. Allow God to do a new work in you. And just know that you're covered. God's got you. He's going to make everything make sense eventually. Okay? If anything resonated with you in this episode, leave a comment below. What is God doing in your life right now that you're believing Him for? What are you believing God for? Let's encourage others as well. Let's share this message with someone that you feel could use right now. And follow and subscribe if this is your type of content that you like to watch. I'm always creating anything regarding personal development and faith and entrepreneurship. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next episode.